beautiful souls. It's Robin, and you're listening to the Live Life Balance podcast. I'm so excited that you dropped by today, prioritizing you and your wellness. This podcast is for my empty nester mamas, women who are getting close to this new chapter, who have dipped one toe in, or who are fully embracing this new phase. This is for the mamas who are ready to take back their health, to live their best lives. If you're looking for an authentic, supportive community, you're definitely in the right place. It's a space for us to learn how to prioritize ourselves again. I'll be your guide, pointing you to ideas and tools that you can experiment with to see what feels good for you. You'll also hear guests talking about their journeys and what's worked for them. Together, we're going to learn how to use the 1% shift method to create little shifts and habits that, who knows, maybe become your non-negotiables to feel your best. By feeling our best, we can show up in our purpose and live the most joyful life, even in the challenging times. And boy, this new chapter can seem challenging, but I can assure you we're not alone. Some of the topics we're going to talk about are self-love, self-care, nutrition, daily toxins, food swaps, mindset, and reframing our thoughts. I hope you leave each time feeling a little more empowered and at ease to take a step or two that will allow you to shine. Are you ready? If you said yes, take a nice deep breath and say, I am ready. Now let's get into it. Hey, I just wanted to come on real quick to let you know that in the month of October, we are going to do a short series focusing on two vital areas: breast cancer prevention and navigating the perimenopause and menopausal journey. I am super excited about this. We're always going to be looking at everything from a holistic perspective and a holistic lens. What can we do from that side of things for prevention or help? And so just a little side note, this is all educational information. Make sure you see your doctor if you're not feeling 100%, or if you have medical questions. In the upcoming episodes, we're going to talk and share some expert insights. We're going to have some personal stories from people. We're, of course, going to walk away with some actionable steps to create our 1% shift on our health journey. So stay tuned, stay inspired, and let's embrace this transformative season together. But I also want to let you guys know that I'm super excited about a free guide that I've created. I've taken a lot of time to create this with you guys in mind, listening to different women speak and telling me what their needs are, which ultimately were the same needs that I had when I first entered into the empty nest phase, which I'm still dipping one toe in and about to go full into it. So I am currently living this myself. I really hope that you find value in this guide. I hope that it brings you something that you can focus on to change your health and wellness so that you can live the life that you desire. This will be linked in the show notes if you didn't see it on social media already. But in the show notes, you will find the link for the free guide. You can also look on my social media to opt in. You can also join my Facebook podcast Facebook group so that we can continue this conversation in a supportive internal community. So without further ado, let's see what's coming up for today. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, on today's episode, we're going to have an authentic conversation with Mary Lee. She is a retired veteran from the Canadian Armed Forces, where she served for more than 24 years. After retirement, she became a PR practitioner, where she's worked in numerous industries, including healthcare, education, aviation, government, mining, bioinnovation, and life sciences. She has an insatiable appetite for knowledge, especially in health and wellness. In fact, she's pursued fitness and wellness as a side hustle for close to 30 years, leading fitness and yoga classes as well as bar classes. In this field, she has been more exposed to women experiencing the same issues in menopause and perimenopause. The story is always the same: weight gain, sleeplessness, brain fog, hot flashes, and issues with digestion. It came to her that in this area sadly lacks a lot of information and support, and she came across a certification called a Menopause Doula, which she took and has successfully been through. And so now she leads different women through this stage of life with extra support and knowledge, and really helps people to understand what their body is actually going through. I found this to be quite informational and enlightening because it is a stage that I'm currently in. So if you're someone in the perimenopause, menopausal phase, I think this episode's going to hit home. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, welcome, Mary. I'm so glad that you're here today. I'd like to just get started by welcoming you, of course, and then just having you tell us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to start right in because you and we're going to go deep diving. So welcome.
It's my favorite part. Thank you so much, Robin, for having me on your show to share my story, but also to reach out to so many women that are just anxious and curious as much as I am, or I was, which landed me in this role as a menopause doula. But let's go backtracking.
Okay, perfect.
Because my background is so diverse, and you kind of got to wonder, how did that happen? Right after high school, I joined the military, and I was in the Canadian Armed Forces for 20 years of regular service, and then a few reserve contracts here and there, giving me a total of 24 years of service.
Thank you so much for that, by the way. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. We all appreciate your work.
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you, flashbacks and PTSD here. Netflix has just released the 9/11 story about the Twin Towers. We've been watching it, and the memories are coming back because I was in the command center in Winnipeg for the Canadian NORAD sector north for North American Air Defense. We were in the op center when that all happened because we just happened to be engaged in exercise, a NORAD exercise where we were simulating protecting our northern borders from Russia. Wow. And then this happened right in the middle of it, and we thought, what's happening here? Anyways, that is kind of something that,
and so somebody might be wondering, but somebody might be wondering, like, how did you go from that to a menopause doula? So where's the connection? There is a connection for sure.
Well, I think when it was interesting to watch it because it brought back so much memories, and I'm going to get to this, but so menopause itself in Ayurvedic terms is referred to as a time of a great reveal. So anything that you haven't been dealing with physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it will come to surface. And so if you haven't dealt with it, it's like menopause says, okay, hi, gone girl. You've been shelving this for a long time. We got to get working on that. And it prominently shows up in health conditions, gut health, all kinds of issues. Now, for me, it was gut health. I've been plagued with it my whole entire life. That sent me down this rabbit hole of trying to understand hormonal health and the importance of maintaining the diversity of the gut microbiome. And it was through a concussion that I suffered that really helped me understand the role of the hypothalamus and the pituitary axis. And then as that changes, because our hormones change, it's sending new signals all over the body saying, we're not getting the same messages. And therefore we start to feel these symptoms like the hot flashes, because the hypothalamus is getting signals that the body's almost going into a survival mode. So it says, we got to protect. So let's keep the heat in. But so for me, I always thought that it was the physical aspects that brought me down this path of self-healing, self-learning. Science communication is my background, from having done that as a public affairs officer in the military and dealing with some really complex issues, to working in PR thereafter, where I had clients in healthcare, education, life sciences, bioinnovation. So I was always thirsty for really technical knowledge. Just to get back to the story, watching that show on Netflix, I realized, oh my goodness, I have so many deep hidden emotions from that, because we were in the op center and we were like, okay, we are responding, we are reacting, we're going to go out there and defend our continent. Let's get to work. And so all those experiences of watching people jumping from the towers, them collapsing to the ground, we were in awe, but we didn't have time to deal with it. Get on with it. We have a job to do. And then for the first 72 hours after that moment, we were hunkered down, working long, hard hours. And then we just get on with it. And that's the can-do attitude in the military, is just, boots on the ground, march on. So now I'm starting to see that as I go through the perimenopause, there's a lot of things coming up from both a health perspective and emotional perspective. And I'm welcoming it because I think this is really important for me to have that introspective outlook on, or inward look on the health of the body, so that I can better serve my clients. Because role number one of a doula is we are compassionate listeners.
100%.
Exactly. We show up wherever our clients are at, and we sit and listen. And this is important in the menopause field for menopausal women, because it's still, unfortunately, taboo. We don't talk about it enough. We don't celebrate it enough, because also in Ayurveda is they also recognize menopause as a time of an age of wisdom. So I say, let's get wise. Let's get wise about our health. We've been ignoring it emotionally, physically, mentally for decades. We can't do that anymore. It's not a service to ourselves, and it's definitely a disservice to our families and the people around us, because how are we going to show up in the world each day? And when those emotions or the hormone fluctuations kick in, and it impacts us emotionally, and our moods change and our physical features change, are we going to give into it, or are we going to welcome it and do something about it? And I clearly see this as the role of the doula, and that we are just there to say, hey, what you're going through is completely personal. I get that, but it's universal. So you never have to feel alone. And then from there, we can start curating the information that is specific and helpful for that individual, because it is in a very individual process.
First of all, I mean, you've just so much gold and so much little nuggets of like perfectly, well said information. And a couple of things that stood out to me was like the emotional connection, because emotions play such a role in our health and wellness, and people don't understand the connection there. And so for you, like your emotional, I call it trauma, because something that you see, hear, feel that gets stuck in your body is trauma, whether it's big trauma or little trauma. And your trauma of 9/11, it makes you feel a certain way, and that's your journey. And then somebody over here that might have had abuse in their life, that's something different. Or someone over here that, little trauma. When I say little trauma, it's like maybe, in their household, they didn't have a voice. They did not speak up. They were just, so there's all kinds of, when we use the word trauma, I think everybody just thinks of that giant trauma of being abused or seeing something like you saw, but it's all kinds of things. And it really comes down to, what have you had in your experience along your journey that you've suppressed, that you haven't gotten out? And I love that what you just said is like menopause being the great reveal, because between the age that most people are at when they go through, the life that they have going on, if you have children going off to college or like entering high school, if you're in that kind of age bracket, I just feel like so much is put on us as women at one time. And when we haven't been doing the work all along, it's like a big explosion. And that's the reveal, I guess. So
it's true.
I love that you said that. And the age of wisdom is so true, because if we were to gather 100, women that are going through perimenopause and menopause, the abundance of wisdom that they carry, they don't even recognize. And, we don't have to do anything alone in life. And I think you're right about the conversation not being talked about enough. And I think it's not talked about enough because of what the societal norm says. And that is,
bingo,
you do this and this is how it goes. And it's like, no, we have to come together and realize we're not crazy. These are real feelings. They are real, like absences of things, or, your mind does play little tricks and you get brain fog, and all those things are real. And I love when you were talking about listening to their story, but then going down the individual route, because something that I was taught in my education is bioindividuality. And everybody comes on their journey with their own experience. And it takes a doula, a health coach, somebody that can come alongside of you to help walk you through and partner with you on your journey. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that just makes you, having the courage to speak out like that. And assume somebody walking that journey with you shows your wisdom, I think.
That's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
love it, love it, love it, love it.
Oh, good, good, good. And I was just going to say, on a more practical level too, so many women, it's almost as if they give up on their journey, where it's their career path or their life goals. And the data is shocking, the statistics, and I can't pull numbers off the top of my head right now, but the data is just alarming. And certainly the Menopause Foundation of Canada has written a report on how many women will leave the workforce because of their menopause transition. And these women, going back to that wisdom part, like there's such a large percentage of women that are over the age of 40 that are holding corporate jobs, high level corporate jobs. You don't even have to be in a high level corporate job, but wherever you're at in your career, you have a wealth of knowledge that you've accumulated, an abundance of knowledge that you accumulated over the course of your career. And then there's a significant transition that happens in your life. A lot of people will leave the workforce, sometimes because these symptoms are so overwhelming, or because the social construct in their workplace doesn't understand, and therefore they do not feel supported. So that's another role of the doula, is to advocate for better resources, advocate for better supports, which means if I have to go into a workplace and have lectures and webinars and workshops to teach the environment within that workshop, within that organization, how to better understand this transition, that it is just a point in time that will transition out, that woman needs to be supported. Because if you do not want to give her up, you do not want to have line up all of the criteria by which she says, I'm no longer supported here, and then it's, quickly walks out the door. That is another part that motivates me, because as a PR practitioner, both in the military and thereafter in my own business, which is probably one of the connections I can draw back to being a doula, is organizational culture. And I wrote my thesis on that, is how important it is for internal communications to support the employer so that they can feel a place of connectedness within the organization. Because a connected, supported, engaged employer increases your return of investment, your
100%. And so added to that is not just connected and supported, but healthy,
healthy
mental, physical, spiritual. If they have those components going on for them, you yourself are going to have better return in your business. I find it fascinating what you're talking about, because I was thinking about the fact that decades ago, women really weren't present in these industries. They weren't in the top leadership roles and things like that. And I really feel like, because we are now, right? I still think it's a very small percent, which I think is sad. And mostly, just listening to what you're saying, it might be because they jump ship because they're not feeling supported. But, if the culture was different within the jobs, and men and women were both, had someone like you come in and speak on the topic and make them feel seen and heard and validated and all the things, they may stick around longer. But in addition to that, people will start to understand each other better. And I think that's really important, because we all live kind of in our own lane, and we forget about the people that are around them that are, part of the picture. So questions. When you're working with somebody that's going through perimenopause or menopause, menopause is one day or whatever, but postmenopausal, what are some of the common things that come up within your conversations that we could give to the audience as like a little nugget that, oh, I'm experiencing this too? Or, and we all get hot flashes, but we all get the term hot flashes, but what are some of the like repeated things that come up that you can then help them work through? And like maybe one or two little tips that you give to them, or kind of how you work with your clients, I guess.
Lately, it's been gut health issues and digestion. And the common complaint is, I got this extra belly fat. I've got this muffin top. I can't get rid of it. I'm gaining weight. I can't get rid of it. I'm still working out. I'm not losing weight. I'm cut back on my meals. I've cut back on this. I'm working out longer and harder. My gut still feels I have this inflammation. That is the common thing. And I am so empathetic, because that's exactly where I had been at with my health, with chronic gut health. And and it's coming up at the yoga studio where I teach, or where I like to go and do my own classes. It's coming up in a circle of friends when we get together for, say, like a dinner party, or once a month we like to get together and hold like a manifestation and meditation together. And we're all talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask just little bits of information. Are you taking a probiotic? No. Okay. So what's your eating pattern like? Are you a late night snacker? Now I'm doing this both in with the client and outside too, because I want to be able to share the wealth. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to push upon them if they're not my client, that I'm there to help them, but I'll just plant those seeds. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, okay, well, I've done an article on gut health, the hormone gut cycle. You might want to take a read of it, but honestly, it's just full of good references. So if you go through the article and you're not convinced, go to the PubMed articles that I reference. And that's one thing I'll always do, is because I don't prescribe, I don't diagnose, I curate the information from the experts in the field. And I will say to them, I've done the work for you. I've investigated this. It's part of my studies as a doula. I've done additional courses on gut health. I know how you're feeling, and gut health is terrible. It's just wrenching. It impacts every part of our life. Also, it impacts our emotional self-worth, and that body dysmorphia so many women will suffer. You think you went through it as a adolescence, it gets worse.
Right.
And that's what I say. You have to show up loving who you are no matter what. But now, get it in your head, the mindset. But now let's work on the physical part. So I said, you might want to look into this. Probiotics, for example, what you eat, when you eat, and how you eat it. And then another thing I also address is cutting back on your food and upping your workouts is counterintuitive to losing the weight. Oh, what do you mean? Well, for example, cortisol. Cortisol level has such a role to play in maintaining that extra weight, because it impacts the gut biome. So I tell people the number one thing you can do right now is lower your cortisol levels. What kind of medication do I need for that? No, you can do this naturally. The universe has given us all the solutions to self-healing. It's all in here. We just need to tap into it. And someone like a doula can guide you there. But things like stress management. See, my whole program is built on what I do as a doula, and one-on-one and group coaching is 4 pillars: nutrition. I don't say diet, nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, and sleep management. Those are the 4 key pillars, and they all work in tandem. So when one starts to improve, you'll start to see improvements in the other. If you can get your stress management down, your stress levels down, the cortisol level down by still and moving meditation, for example, things like yoga, which really forces us to be more introspective, the breathing, such a key role, and then just that being still, meditating, or being out in the garden picking weeds, still meditative, bring down that cortisol level. So then all of a sudden you start to see improvements in your sleep. Your emotional eating starts to change. You've got more control in it. You start recognizing, oh, I'm emotionally eating, and this is why I'm packing on the extra weight, for example. So this is one area. I find the gut and the brain, and it's so true, that gut-brain axis is so important. The gut is actually, in my mind, the one central command center. It really is. And the heart too, like it's in here and rises up to the brain. The brain is getting its cues from how the gut health is doing, and also how our heart health is doing, things like that self-love. And that comes from the introspective work, the mindset work, and the meditative work.
First of all, can I get a heck yeah for all of that? Because it is what I talk about all the time, every day, when people ask me, what do you do? What do this? It's like, it is not that difficult. The steps are not that difficult, but they're foreign to most people. And I love, I'm very fascinated with the gut. I think, everything that you've said is just so spot on. The correlation between the hormones in your brain and the gut your gut microbiome. When one is out of whack, the other's out of whack. And so you've got to start somewhere to address it to then, and those are like, when I talk about the 1% shifts, it's doing the very tiny microscopic things on a daily basis that form the change, because we do live in a diet culture. And as we all can see, it doesn't work for long term. If you hop on something for 20 days, 30 days, you do a detox of some sort, they can be beneficial for different reasons. It could be a jump start for somebody. It could be you're trying to find out if you have food sensitivities. There are reasons to do some of them, but we've been so conditioned in our society that in order to lose weight, we must be on a restrictive diet. We must exercise like a mad woman. And those are so counterintuitive, especially when you get to the perimenopause and menopausal stage, for sure, but really along your whole journey. The other thing that, really just jumps out at me is the heart and the gut. And it's like, that is your central command center. And I love that terminology. But if you think about it, how much we ignore that in our life. We'll go get our nails done. We'll get our facials, we'll get our hair done. We might get earrings, or we might get a tattoo, or, whatever. So we're like looking at the nobody's talking about, how does your heart feel? Like, your heart emotions are real, and your gut emotions, when they say I have butterflies in my stomach, there's a reason, because you're getting a gut feeling. It's not just a term that somebody made up, like it comes from reality. And so I'm super passionate about gut health. And the other thing, when you said your 4 pillars, I've noticed that the word exercise is a trigger for some people, because they've been so conditioned to, well, exercise means I must run for 30 minutes. I must go to the gym. I must, right? Like, that's the only things that count as exercise. And it's like, no, let's look at the word movement, right? Because movement is in reality exercise. What did you do as a little kid? Did your mom tell you at 5 years old to go to the gym and lift weights? No, she said, get outside, have fun, ride your bike, play kick the can, or I know that's dating me, but what, like play kickball, be interactive and move your body. So I try to encourage people, find something that's fun. Yoga is amazing. And I know a lot of people don't care for yoga because it's too slow. They're just not, to me, it's like, that's the best place to find how to be quiet. But even quiet time in the morning without doing yoga, if you can just focus and have some of that quiet, that does lower the cortisol. The other thing I find super interesting about cortisol is the melatonin aspect, right? And so the whole technology piece and the EMFs, I'm like super like going down that rabbit hole lately, just because it's been brought to my attention by my own person that I go to. And she's like, this is killing you. Like, you need to figure out a way to have less EMFs, and all of this other stuff, because that's what her passion is. Right. And so, and I love that, because I go to different people and I learn different little pieces of nuggets of information, and then I create my own wisdom throughout that. And so, I don't feel married to somebody. I don't feel like I have to stay with somebody forever, but I like to just see what other people are thinking and what they've learned, because I don't have time to learn everything. Right. I need to go to the people who know some of the things, and then, keep moving on to find all the pieces that work for me. But, the cortisol thing, I think when we wake up in the morning and we're not getting direct sunlight and we're scrolling on our phone right away, and we're not getting that wake up time, and that light in your eyes is really important to set like your melatonin for the night. And people don't understand that because they've never been taught that. And it used to not really be an issue, really, if you think about it. It wasn't really until cell phones, well, the newer cell phones now, where you can check your emails and you can do all the things. It wasn't back in the olden days, it was just a phone, but not anymore. Now it's like a mini laptop, so
who uses a phone to make a phone call now, right?
Right. Exactly. So true. So I like to tell people, like, if your cortisol is not having the appropriate slide, like rise and slide is what I call it. You got to figure that out. And so sometimes, you can experiment and try things. And then if you can afford it, get the testing, just because it really will show. I think gut microbiome testing and neurotransmitter testing and cortisol testing, those are, to me, in my life journey with my children and myself, and now my husband, they show such an amazing picture of your health. And they tell such a story, and it gives you like a starting point without feeling like I've got to do all the things at one time.
And that's just the thing that a doula can do, is we'll go out and find out what are all of the other resources available outside the doctor's office that are going to set somebody up for success. And we gather all that and say, okay, for example, the cortisol testing, which you can't normally find, walk into your doctor, say, hey, let's do some cortisol testing today.
Right.
Because that's not their specialty. I mean, the statistics, again, are quite alarming how many GPs do not have the background in women's health. I think it's 9% said they remotely feel confident. And then OBGYNs, it's 20% of a field of study that should be more engaged in women's health would feel remotely confident because they got a lesson in their medical training. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so that's just the thing, is that we know by the other fields of medicine, a nutritionist, there's also a naturopath, there's acupuncture, there's a wealth of other modalities that are out there. And the specialties like you listed off are just some of the things that tell us a bigger story. And a lot of people are just dumbfounded. I don't even know where to begin. So that's what we do as a doula. We sit down and say, okay,
take a breath,
couple of deep breaths. But let's talk about this. And then we start unpacking it, unraveling it. And we work together. And another thing that's really advantageous is charting. See what's happening during the month. How many days of quality sleep? How many days of lousy sleep? Where is the menstrual cycle happening? Heavy bleeding is very common for perimenopause. And there's a reason for that, because the estrogen levels are changing, which is going to have an impact on the uterine lining. And so, but a lot of women are fearful of that. Like, oh my God, I got this heavy bleeding, it must be cancer. I got, ovary cancer. I want it. Oh, I want a hysterectomy. It's like, whoa, because that is the message that has been told for so many years, or perhaps that's the story that they heard from their mother, or no story because they never talked about it, certainly not in my household. And so this is some of the things that we help women better understand. It's all about teaching them how to take control. The more knowledge you can give them, that's powerful, so they can make informed decisions and not be misled. It's funny, now that I've been doing the doula training, when I do get together with some of my girlfriends, what they talk about, it's just amazing. It's like, now I'm cluing in. It's like, well, I heard flaxseed is really good for this, and so I'm going to up my flaxseed. It's like, yep, that's good. But do you know the reason why and how it works effectively with certain, regime, but you can't, overdose, if you will. It's so funny now that I start to recognize these patterns, but I don't necessarily want to interfere. I just help them say, hey, take a look at this article. You might find it very interesting. It might help you resolve some of your health problems, or, you might be feeling a little bit misled about that information. So
one of the things I love that you're talking about is getting together with your girlfriends. And I think that's also a very big piece that is missing, which is community and support when making changes. And that is actually, like, for myself, I've been doing one-to-one coaching, but I'm in creation of a course because of that reason. I feel like we as women tend to do better when we're supported from a larger population of people going through the same thing. And, for me, I know everything, because I don't. I mean, there's no way to know everything. It's like, I'm on this journey too, so come along with me. I've been on the journey of gut healing, and I've been on the journey of, and so when we as the people who are kind of standing up with the information are going on that journey. We're just inviting people really to come on the journey so that together you can figure out. And I think it's so interesting because when you're talking about hormone levels, there are, different things that you can do in the nutrition side of things to help balance out, especially if you're estrogen dominant. That's one thing that I've been diving really hard into, because it's something my daughter has, and I didn't understand what that was, and in menopause, I think I probably have close to not a lot of estrogen left. But for me, that's been a real impact in the way I feel. And so I'm working through trying to figure out those things for me where I'm at now on my journey. But I just keep going back to the community feel, and when you're getting together with your friends. And I think we have to remember, again, there are some people that are probably more like you and I that will do the deep dive, that want to do the deep dive, they want to understand. But then there are some people that are so busy with life and all the other aspects of life, they just don't have really the opportunity or the time or the desire to do that. And so therefore they are looking to someone like you to help them along, because you've lived it, you've done it, you work with these people, so I think sometimes, we have to, like you say, meet the person where they're at
Yeah,
and go on their journey with them. And I love the idea of pointing people, because that's what I feel like I say I'm a pointer a lot of times, but I like pointing people to the articles because I love PubMed. I think that they have a lot of good, valid information, because I think there is a lot of misinformation out there. But I think a lot of it's also experimenting, because what works for one, even if it's the person who wrote the article, what works for that person or what they found might not work for this person, because this person has all these other underlying conditions.
Yes.
So they're not ready yet for that to be their piece. They've got all this other,
right.
like little work to do on the side. So
yeah,
I find it just interesting. I've never heard of a menopause doula. So I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because I feel like I'm probably not the only one that hasn't heard of that. Right. And so I think it's worth definitely, if you're somebody in this phase of life and you're struggling and you're looking for somebody, I think, a doula would be a good avenue to go, because they are there to support you. They're there to walk the walk with you. And it's a rickety walk, but I think it's the best walk, because you end up really
True.
learning who you are.
Absolutely true. And the clients that I work with are very highly intelligent, motivated women. So we do it as it's a team effort. We work
Absolutely.
together as a team. And I find that is far more rewarding, because they feel like they have ownership over their health decisions. They've been able to map it out, and we work on it together. And I learn too, because again, it's very individual. Every case is going to be absolutely different. I mean, nutrition, it's a natural remedy for a lot of our ailments. Disease begins in the gut. So if you're not feeding the gut biome properly with natural foods, healthy, wholesome foods, then, you're going to set yourself up for failure. But also, it's natural and individualized. And that's that. It goes back to the introspective time. Take the time to recognize. And I say food journaling is critical. Absolutely.
100%.
Start to recognize the pattern. So as you're charting your flow month to month and your symptoms month to month, chart your intake of foods too, including the supplements, because some supplements can actually be counterintuitive.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's such a topic on its own, for sure.
Yes.
And one of the things you were just saying with the whole food that just popped in my head was probiotics. And sometimes probiotics are good for individuals, and then sometimes they're not. There's 4 biotics. There's a variety of probiotics out there, depending on what your condition is. But what I find super fascinating is when you say, well, what foods do you eat that naturally have pre and probiotics? And they're
Absolutely.
a lot of times they don't even know, because they've never been taught, like, oh, this is a prebiotic food, or, oh, if I have 1 scoop of sauerkraut a day or kimchi or something like that, that's an added value. Right. And so it's just interesting. And I think those are the little things that I think when people learn, it starts to shift their mind. Because I always say food first, then supplements when needed. But again, all supplements are not created equal. So you've got to really know your source, right? And know what's in your supplements, and make sure that they're real supplements and they're not filled with fillers and garbage, just like food. It's the same story.
That's so true. Yeah, so true. I was actually having this conversation with my husband the other day, and he said the hardest part, now that he's really taken notice of his own cardiovascular health, he's just at that age, very active his whole life, also in the military as a search and rescue technician, very similar to American PJs or Navy SEALs, I guess you could say. So very super type A active his whole life. But now he's been like, oh, I have to take notice of my cardiovascular health. And so he's been really upping his nutrition, improving his nutrition. But he said, the hardest thing for me, Mary, it's the cost. I said, I absolutely agree with it. However, when we start eating the right things, we eat less, we get what we need and our body isn't just craving the junk that we end up spending so much money on, and just tweaking it is enough. Learning how to tweak it, we can realize that we can do this quite effectively, cost effectively. But that's a
That's a
journey
large
unto itself.
conversation. Yeah, that's a
That is
large
a very large
Yeah,
conversation.
it's a large conversation that I don't think there's anybody that I've ever worked with that's not a topic of conversation, and I love it. I think it's a great conversation because I think that's also mindset shifts, because you're not going to be you're right. When you when you set up your plate differently, you're going to be satiated longer. You're not going to have a lot of those craving symptoms, and also, instead of buying, 2 bags of, ultra processed chips, you might buy 1 bag of, healthier, made with a good oil chip, but you're going to eat less of them. So you're just, it's a balancing. And then also, if you just get rid of the chips altogether, you go to the produce section, what could you buy for? I mean, chips nowadays, I don't know, it's probably $10 for 2 bags. I mean, haven't looked but I'm just guessing according to like how much everything is. You can go and you can get several things for $10 that you could make into a meal out of the produce section. So also, when people talk about like the money issue, join a CSA, go to your local farmers market. There are ways, you just have to get resourceful. And when you start omitting out ultra processed foods, you will see that you're going to have more money. It's just rethinking what you're doing.
Sign up for my Trust Your Gut course, where I actually show people how much proteins and carbs and fiber you need in a day, and why, and how to consume it.
Correct. Yeah. And then that's another whole topic, is the carb topic, right? Because you've got all these, fad things out there saying, and again, everybody's different. So carbs work for one person that doesn't work for his mother in amounts, basically, like where you are in your age, where you are in your health journey. So again, there are like little parameters, I guess, but then everybody's bio-individual. So you got to kind of see what works better, for that person, and not being afraid to do that. Just because, let's say in your course, like you say, do this, this, and this, but this person feels a little bit better doing a little less of this. It's okay. You're not saying you must, you're just saying this is a recommended, see how it feels. So I'm always about the feeling part, because I feel like if you have a breakfast and you feel satiated for many hours, that's probably a great breakfast for you. But if I ate that breakfast, that might not work for me, right? So I always say, get curious. And that's why I think your food log is, again, I think it's a terrific concept, and it's a must do, because you really see the connection between what you're eating, how you're feeling. Because when people's, are not getting satiated, they're crabby, there's a lot of different, emotional things that come up.
Most often they're not feeling satiated because perimenopause women are not getting enough proteins, and proteins are the first thing to drop, because we think proteins, animals, and I understand and I respect that for a lot of people, it's a cultural thing, and it's also an ethical thing. But with the right combination of foods, beans, yams, you are getting an abundance of protein. There's so much proteins in beans alone that, are equivalent to, say, I get a palmful of animal meats. A plant, I won't say plant-based. I'm going to use Dr. Stacy Sims, who I coached, took her coaching program as well. She says plant-centric diet. And there's so much wealth of information out there. And again, about the satiated, when we get those right plant-based or plant fibers and proteins, we're satiating ourselves. But I'm going to add a caveat to that. Also, perimenopause women, peri to post, we need to have more resistance training. Like we have to up our heavy weight lifting training. You think, oh my God, going to the gym. If I told you set your timer for 22 minutes, and then that's it. I don't want you to do any more workout, because then you're just going to put your cortisol level in overdrive. You're going to do a very concentrated, hard workout, sprint interval training, and hard resistance training. You need that, but in short chunks. So it's not going to chew up your whole entire day, less than a yoga class. And then you're going to start to find that the body's going to crave food differently. So you're doing good health, heart health with your cardio workouts. you're addressing bone density loss and muscle mass loss, because that happens quite readily, quite quickly in the perimenopause years. And you do not want to lose that, because I'm telling you, joint breaks, like hips, is one of the leading causes of death for women in the postmenopausal years, because once they have that break, it's the recovery thereafter, and what happens and what puts them into a lifestyle that is just debilitating thereafter. And there's a whole topic on itself there. But I will say that as our nutrition changes, it will change even more when we make those smart changes with our movement or exercise movement. And that's part of my program too, in those 4 pillars. Again, the nutrition, the movement, or exercise, because your exercise patterns must change. So if you hated heavy weights before, okay, that's fine, but you can do push-ups on your knees. You can do wall squats. There are things you can do even at home.
I was just going to say, I love that you're mentioning that, because it's not just, that is an option to go to the gym and lift. But if you're not someone that has a membership, if you can't afford it, if that is not a roadblock, you can do things at home, like the wall squats. Like, your own body weight is just as resistant as lifting. I mean, if you think about how much you weigh, you know, you're lifting a lot when you're doing your own things. And I'm going to say from personal experience, the muscle mass loss when you are in post menopause is the fastest thing I've ever seen. It
Absolutely.
is, and I will tell you again, my journey, I was like, what in the world is going on with my quads? Like, I mean, not that I've ever been a huge bodybuilder, but I'm like, what is happening here? You know, and again, I was not educated enough to understand that that was coming, you know, I mean, because if I had, which is part of my mission, is to educate people, it's coming, you know, and so you've got to prepare, you know, and it's now harder for me to gain back that muscle. It's not it's not that I can't do it, and I am working on it. And it is something that I'm very mindful about, because it's just, I mean, to me, it was so interesting how quickly the change happened. Even being someone that's been doing yoga for a long time, I had to add back in the weight resistance, had to. Like, for me personally, it just was not really an option at that point. So I just get curious, people, like, if you're out there listening to this podcast, what is your exercise style? What is your movement? You know, where are you on the journey? Are you perimenopause? Are you postmenopause? Like, where are you? And just start to notice, because what Mary is saying, I mean, again, I'll attest to, my mom lives in assisted living. The hip breaks, people, do kill you. I mean, and again, it's the most
tragic,
disgusting thing I've seen, like, in this whole journey, which is a total different subject, but you know, people, whatever age you are, especially in those older years, you've got to keep up with balance. I mean, balance and weight training type of stuff. Again, it doesn't have to be 1,000 pounds. It's not for an hour every day. It's just a little bit, to make the rest of your journey a delightful one, is the way I look at it.
And have fun with it. Like
Yes.
a bar. So two of my favorite classes to teach, and that comes back from my background in the fitness side hustle for so many years. I teach bar classes, and I teach HIIT. It's a high interval training, and then the bar classes. And I watched the journey of a couple of ladies a few years ago when they started bar for the first time. And I would have them in those 5 movements, a diamond thigh, and where you're just like, come down an inch and up an inch and down an inch, and for 6 or 7 minutes, and then just press down. And you're on the balls of your feet, and your heels are up high, like in your stilettos. And you've got the sewing machine legs going. Or we'll do 2-pound weights, come down and up and out and in, and then just little shoulder presses, and then we'll get into some push-ups, and then we'll hold some forearm planks. The journey that these 2 ladies, and they're just, I love them dearly. They said, I can't believe, like, you told me I would see results in a couple of weeks. Well, I feel stronger. So the first thing that they notice is that they can stay in the position longer. And a couple of weeks after that, they start to see little bumps in their arms. And then a couple of weeks after that, their jeans feel loose in their bum.
Right.
Or tighter, because we get that bazillion butt going.
That's right. You're getting the bigger.
But they start to see those small incremental small changes. They've had fun doing it. And then when they start to notice those changes, they're motivated So they want to go a little bit deeper. And I said, okay, girls, you've been coming for a couple months now. Now we're going a little bit. We're going to get you a little deeper into this.
Go a little lower.
But joining a class, and it goes back to something you said earlier on, the sense of community and that sense of a group. So it doesn't have to be a Facebook group. We're all in here together. It can be going to a group classes and having fun and laughing. Laughter, such a medicinal, remedy right there, right?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
let your journey be fun. But I will caution, though, is that if you're starting off for the first time, somebody's been relatively a sedate lifestyle and inactive, consult with your doctor first.
Absolutely.
You don't want to go in there full throttle and then just have a jammer on the treadmill, right? That's 100%. Not what we're here for.
No.
Yeah.
And again, that's where we talk about like starting little, starting small. No one's telling you to go from the couch to, running a marathon. It's sprint, it's like little tiny things. It's funny you say bar because over the summer I started bar with my daughter and another girl who's kind of like my daughter. And I love it. I mean, it's fun. I definitely feel the workout. But what I find the most fascinating are the older women that are in there that are killing it. And I'm and then you have some of the younger kids or new people going, I guess I should say, unconditioned people. The shake is real. And they shake too, but people are like, oh, bar, that's so easy. It's like, it's not as easy as you think. It can be if you don't really work at it, if you just go in and do it, not full out or, but you get the workout you put in, I think, in that class.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
you get what
the
you give
balance that you get is amazing. The coordination. We just went last night, and afterwards the three of us were laughing because we're like, sometimes it's so confusing because it's like so much coordination and happening, like you do this and this. And so they're a lot younger than me, but I'm like, okay, that's good. At least I'm not the only one that feels, but I think just having that coordination, the stability, and then the muscle gain, and it's fun. It's not like, you're not going into something where you're going to come out feeling dead. You're going in for that time. And I always come out feeling like refreshed and energized.
Yeah. One of the things I really love about doing bar class, and when you're a teacher and then you go to do your own class, it's kind of hard because we give hands-on alignment. I'm going to give a shout out to Bar Method because that's my training is from Bar Method. Okay. And it hands-on alignment. So, and we ask the client, the student, can I put my hands on your hips just to align you? So, when you're in some of those fold over positions, and some of the listeners right now are probably thinking, what the heck is fold over? Go to a bar class and you'll find out. No. And so you don't know where your leg is in space when you're looking forward at the bar and you've got your legs stretched behind you. Right. So I like to come around, and especially for the ones that are really strong, been doing bar for a while. And I said, great posture, beautiful alignment. I'm going to tweak it. And I'll lower one hip of the working side leg and I'll lower the shoulder. So square up the shoulder, and they all go, oh my God, I feel that. But they feel so great about themselves because that small little tweak, first of all, there's an emotional connection, the hands-on. Somebody cares and they want me to go work harder. And then they feel it. And so then there's a mental connection. Now I know where my body should be in space and time when I'm doing this workout. So then they start to go deeper. There's that introspective connection. All I had to do is touch their hip. And all of a sudden there's this whole connection with the mind and body. And then I know they're getting more out of that workout than just the physical aspect. They're getting that emotional and mental aspect of it and that feeling of connectedness. And that aside, the music is awesome. I mean, just like, that's right. Who doesn't want to move to the music that you play in a bar class, right?
That's right. That's very true. So, I think anybody listening, first of all, Mary, you're incredible. You're a wealth of wisdom. You have so many gifts to give to the world. And I'm so glad that you came on today. I'm so glad that we got this conversation going. And for people who are new to any of this conversation, I know for sure that they're walking away with something that they can apply to their daily life. Now, if you want to find Mary, and you want to learn more about what Mary has to offer, all of that information is going to be dropped in the show notes. But before we end, I like to ask all my guests for one or two, what I call non-negotiables. I'm all about the 1% shifts and the non-negotiables. And so in your non-negotiables, what do you do, Mary, on a daily basis that you're not willing to negotiate with so that you feel your best?
I start my day off with morning meditation. And I have well, sometimes I forget it, but I'm committed. I have a gratitude journal. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that I want to achieve in the day, and then I wrap it up at the end of the day of highlights of the day and what's my one lesson I learned in my affirmation. But that morning meditation is so critical. I really feel like this is a spiritual side of me coming out. I'm sitting down and I'm having a moment with my spirit guides, with the universe, and they're downloading all of the information I need for my day. I haphazardly today chose a new meditation. I went back to the Deepak Chopra from the Chopra Center, the 21 Days of Abundance. I said, wow, it's been a while. So I clue into those little instincts that tell me. It shows up on Spotify. I went, ooh, I could listen to that one this morning. And that's what I did. And I just felt back at peace of mind. I can feel myself preparing for the day. So that morning meditation for me, even if it for somebody else is just a journal, it's very cathartic, is non-negotiable. Second, I start my day off on an empty belly with a probiotic. Third, I take my greens. Shout out for AG1. I have to have my greens. And then coffee is non-negotiable.
There you go. As long as you set yourself up with other good things, you got to have your little things that you love too. And so that's what I call the 80-20 rule, right? So it's
the 80-20 rule is so critical.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
Great question. Wow.
Thank you. I love it. And I love to hear what other people have as their non-negotiables. Number one, because I find them fascinating. But number two, because if you're someone who's never really thought about what a non-negotiable is for you, they can take away little things from different people and try them out, see how they feel. Do they resonate? I do quiet time every morning because to me, having that time for me with God, but having that time sets me up in a space much different than when I jump out of bed and I'm hectic.
Yes.
And I don't have that little bit of time. And again, it doesn't have to be an hour, it could be 5 minutes. If you only have 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes. And again, I think it's just knowing what works best for you. So thank you so much for sharing those non-negotiables, because I love them. And I think that somebody else might like them too.
Might benefit from
might benefit. Yeah. So it was amazing talking to you. Again, everybody, all of Mary's information will be in the show notes. And until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll talk to y'all soon. Wow, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. It was just packed full of such good information. So I'm just going to break it down to some of the takeaways that I found to be very inspirational. Were number one, the fact that she talks about menopause being a time of reveal. She discusses that menopause is a period where unresolved physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual issues come to the surface. It's time to address those issues that might have been ignored for years. The holistic approach to health, she emphasizes the importance of addressing various aspects of health during menopause, including gut health, hormonal changes, and emotional well-being. She also advocates for a holistic approach to health that considers nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, and sleep management. She calls those her 4 pillars. She thrives on individual care. She feels that people need personalized health approaches. What works for one person may not work for the other, and it's essential to recognize and address each individual's unique needs and preferences. Number 4, resistance training and nutrition. She emphasizes the importance of resistance training, even in short, focused sessions, to maintain bone density and muscle mass during menopause. Additionally, paying attention to nutrition, including plant-based options as well as animal protein, is crucial for overall health. Number 5, community and support. She discusses the significance of community and support during this phase of life. Having a supportive network and seeking guidance from professionals like doulas can make the menopausal journey more manageable. Number 6, morning meditation and self-care. She emphasizes the importance of morning meditation as a form of self-care, allowing individuals to connect with their inner selves and set a positive tone for the day. Number 7, listening to your body. Throughout this conversation, Mary encourages individuals to listen to their bodies, pay attention to how certain foods and exercises make them feel, and make informed decisions about their health. Journaling and gratitude. She practices journaling and gratitude exercises, which can be therapeutic and help individuals reflect on their goals, their achievements, and lessons learned. And she also had some non-negotiables, which were morning meditation, probiotics, and make sure she gets her greens. I really feel like if you're someone in the perimenopause or menopausal stage, of life, that we can all use extra support, we can all use community. And I hope that you were able to take something away from this podcast that was meaningful, that you can apply to your everyday life. Until next time, have a great day, guys. Bye. Thanks for tuning in today. I loved being here with you. I hope that you got something from today's episode. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. Drop a comment below, and if you feel led to, download the episode and share it with someone you love that needs to hear this message. As we continue to spread the goodness of this podcast, I'd love for you to help us by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or a rate on Spotify. As we increase listeners, we will come up more often when women are searching for podcasts to listen to. To stay connected with me, you can check out my social media pages at Live Life Balanced with Robin. You can check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com. You can book a discovery call. And if you're looking for a way to get started right now, you can opt in for my new quick guide for the empty nester refresh. You can join my waitlist for my new course, It's Your Time, which is going to be launching soon, which I'm super excited about. And as always, thank you for letting me be part of your day. It truly means a lot that you're allowing me to be on your wellness journey with you. Until next time, find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to happen.